Andrew, thank you. With regard to Secretary Austin, I wasn't aware of his medical issue. In fact, I talked to Lloyd last weekend before this incident, and I know that he's put out a statement addressing it.
This is my video update on this Monday, midday, January the 8th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with Lloyd Austin. So the Pentagon chief, Mr. Lloyd Austin, also known as Darth Vader, he's still in the hospital, though the Pentagon came out with a statement and they said that he is recovering well, all is good, after complications occurred from an elective surgery, an elective procedure that he underwent about a week ago. And after that elective procedure, some complications happened and he had to stay in the hospital. And no one knew that he was in the hospital, not even the Biden White House. Now, keep in mind, this is the Secretary of Defense. This is perhaps one of the, if not the most important cabinet position for the Biden White House. And no one knew he was at the hospital for 7 days. And it looks like not even the Pentagon knew that he was in the hospital due to complications from this elective procedure that he underwent. Not even the Deputy Defense Secretary was told that Austin had been hospitalized, according to CNN. How is that even possible? She assumed his duties on January the 2nd, the Deputy Defense Secretary. Now, when she assumed the duties of Defense Secretary, what exactly was she told? what was she told? You're going to be the new Defense Secretary. You're going to assume the duties of the Secretary of Defense. Is that okay with you? Yeah, sure. I mean, how did this conversation take place? How did this thing unfold? If you're the Deputy Defense Secretary, wouldn't you ask, like, what's going on with Austin? Is something wrong? Is he okay? Is something going on? Why am I going to be assuming the duties of Defense Secretary? I mean, what a weird story this is. What a weird story. Something is up. Something is going on that they're not telling us. The Pentagon, Austin, the permanent state, they're not telling us something, because this is a very bizarre story. The Pentagon, once again, the Pentagon said that he is recovering well and that he's actually working from the hospital right now. He's been in the hospital for something like 7-8 days. That sounds pretty serious to me, if you want my opinion, which is not an expert opinion on medical issues, but I don't know, man. 7-8 days in the hospital, it doesn't sound good. So Trump, he posted on Truth Social, failed Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin should be fired immediately for improper professional conduct and dereliction of duty. He has been missing for 1 week, and nobody, including his boss, crooked Joe Biden, had a clue as to where he was or might be. He has performed poorly and should have been dismissed long ago, along with General Milley, for many reasons, but in particular the catastrophic surrender in Afghanistan, perhaps the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. So, Trump is right. He's right. This is beyond bizarre. This is beyond freaking bizarre. If this had happened under Trump, that this would be like the biggest story in the world. CNN, MSNBC, they would not stop talking about this if this incident had happened under a Trump White House. But because this is going on under Biden, no one's really really talking about this. But it's kind of hard to ignore, isn't it? Anyway, really weird stuff. Really weird stuff. Something is going on. Something happened. Something happened that they're not telling us. So let's now move on to the German defense ministry, or maybe we should say the German defense industry, and those wonder weapon Leopard tanks, because we had a report from the German publication Spiegel, which said that that the Leopard tanks, they do indeed have problems. The Leopard tanks that they gave to the Ukraine military, they have problems because they break down often. Several tanks supplied by Germany do not fight on the Ukrainian front, but are in repair halls. Russian shelling is one reason for this, but not the only one. What is behind the failure? Writes Spiegel, the German publication. What is behind the failure of the Leopard tanks? Now, I talked about this in a video a few days ago, that Leopard tanks, something like 40 or so Leopard tanks, were stuck in Lithuania undergoing repairs, and the German defense industry, for some reason, they don't have the spare parts to fix up these Leopard tanks, so they've just kind of been stuck in Lithuania. And the German government, they actually sent a fact-finding team to Lithuania to figure out what is going on with these wonder weapon Leopard tanks. And what they found out is that these Leopard tanks are just not suitable for combat. No joke. It's not a joke. They break down easily, and they're very, what's the right word here? They're very delicate, it seems. The tanks are very delicate machinery, and they're actually not meant for combat, but they're meant more for display, for show, for parades. The tanks are more for parade purposes rather than combat purposes. That is what the the fact-finding team found out when they visited this maintenance area in Lithuania. Oh, those wonder weapon Leopard tanks, huh? Very delicate pieces of machinery. Oh man! And now the German politicians, they're urging that the government of Olaf Scholz sends the latest wonder weapon from Germany, which is the Taurus missile. So that's going to be sent to the Alinskys regime. The long-range Taurus missile. That's going to be the next German wonder weapon. You think it's going to fare any better than the Leopard tanks? I don't think so. I really don't think so. The German military is also reporting that when they were training Ukraine soldiers for the big super duper counteroffensive, where the Ukraine military, where the NATO proxy was defeated by the Russian military, the big super duper counteroffensive, when they were training these soldiers at bases in Germany, they're now reporting that there were drones, like drones up in the sky. And these drones that were hovering up in the sky They they believe that these were Russian spy drones, not Chinese spy balloons, but Russian spy drones. This is according to various officials, as reported on by the German publication Bild. German military worried about suspicious drones. The country's military cannot deal with the UAVs which have been observed for more than a year, the newspaper has revealed. The German military has been reporting suspicious drone sightings over their bases, including facilities used to train Ukrainian troops. The Bild tabloid reported on Sunday. German officials have blamed the incidents on Russia while failing to obtain any evidence shedding light on the situation, the paper added. So they believe that these Russian drones have been hovering over German bases for over a year now, and that they've been picking up intel on how Germany was training those Ukrainian soldiers who took part in the super duper counteroffensive, which was a catastrophe. So that's how the Russians figured everything out. That's how they defeated the NATO proxy in the summer, spring, winter, fall, spring, summer, fall counteroffensive. They had spy drones. For over a year, they had the spy drones picking up intel and figuring out the moves, the procedures of the NATO Ukraine military. For 1 year, you are saying that you had drones hovering over your military bases, Germany. You really want us to believe this? And you just were fine with that. I can't believe this stuff, man. You're at a military base and you look up and there's all these, just a couple of drones. I don't even want to say all these, maybe one or two or three drones, just right over you. 1 day passes, 2 days pass, a week, a month. The drones are still there, and this is like no big deal. Oh man, nonsense, man. Come on, this is nonsense. Maybe it was like some YouTubers or something. Maybe some people were like filming like a YouTube travel vlog, and they had the drones up in the air. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it was the Russians. Maybe it was the Chinese. Who knows? Maybe the Chinese, they changed up their tactics, and instead of spy balloons, they have spy drones flying around Germany. I don't know, but they're over your military base, so I would imagine that would, I don't know, maybe that would cause some alarm. Someone in the ranks to say, maybe we should address those drones that are hovering over our bases for the last year. Anyway, there's a new political party in Germany as well, which was announced the other day, and this is going to be a political party that, from what I understand, is actually a faction of the CDU, and the CDU is allegedly, the CDU is like a center right party, but it's more now of a globalist, neoliberal globalist party now. Merkel made sure that the CDU was turned into this EU neolib party, but this new faction, which is splitting away from the CDU, is going to form its own political party, and this is big news. This is very big news because it's going to probably take a lot of the center right Germans who are not happy with the CDU. Is going to probably pull a lot of those voters with them. So that was big news as well. And we have the German publication, a lot of news coming out of Germany. We have the German publication Welt reporting that Ukraine's operation to capture Crimea is not over. Not over. It is not over. Not by a long shot, according to the German publication Welt. And they claim that this bridgehead that Ukraine has established in the Kherson region, this is going to be the launch pad for the Ukraine military to move on to Crimea, to capture Crimea. And Welt says that Crimea is only 60 kilometers away from this bridgehead that Ukraine has established in Kherson. So the counteroffensive is not over. Not over at all. Welt is reporting that suddenly a Ukrainian breakthrough is back in reach. It says that Crimea was supposed to be the retreat and attack platform of the Russian army, but Ukraine has again successfully struck the Air Force base there, and soon a decisive delivery will arrive from Europe. They're talking about the F-16s. This is from a Google Translate from the German language to English. But basically, what this article is saying is that they're building this bridgehead in Kherson and Krinky, and once the F-16s come online, we're going to see the big push towards Crimea, 60 kilometers away. That is according to the German publication Welt. Of course, we have news coming out of Norway and Denmark, where they are claiming that the Ukraine pilots are not ready for the F-16s just yet. So there's going to be a delay with regards to the F-16s actually entering the theater of battle in Ukraine. So we're going to see a delay there. And of course, the Pentagon, they announced a couple of weeks ago that the Ukraine pilots that are training in the United States will not be ready until the end of 2024. So I don't know. I guess this bridgehead is going to just sit tight in their position across the river for what? A whole year? Is that the plan? Have we not been here before with this ridiculous narrative about a bridgehead in Kherson? On December 16th, the New York Times, they actually published an article with the title, Ukrainian Marines on Suicide Mission in Crossing the Dnipro River. They actually called this mission, this bridgehead that Alinskys was trying to establish, the New York Times, on December 16th called this a suicide mission. And when you look at the videos and the photos of these Ukrainian Marines trying to cross over and like establish some sort of presence across the Dnipro, it's just basically rafts, like, you know, 3, 4, 5 man rafts and small little boats trying to cross over the river, and they're just getting annihilated by Russian artillery or Russian drones. And I mean, this thing really is a suicide mission, and it's a crime. It's a tragedy. It's a crime that Alinskys continues to send men to their inevitable annihilation, trying to cross this river and trying to create this bridgehead, just so that he can score media optics bonus points with publications like Welt, which gladly push the ridiculous narrative that the counteroffensive still has some juice left in it. Welt is actually promoting this Alinskys fiction that Ukraine is going to be able to build a bridgehead and use that bridgehead along with the F-16 fighter jets to make it to Crimea. Meanwhile, the losses, from what I've been reading, the losses in this area in Kherson are catastrophic for the Ukraine military. I mean, they're just these Marines are just sitting ducks. But there you have it. The most important thing for the collective West, for NATO, for Germany, for the Alinskys regime is the media narrative. They're still concerned 2 years into this conflict, and they're still obsessed with fighting a media war, while they're actually losing, and they've lost the real war. And Italy, well, they are They are saying that the European Union needs to prepare for war. And the Italian foreign minister said that Europe and the EU will only be safe if they build an EU army. This is according to Antonio Tajani, the Italian foreign minister. Italy calls for a European army without a shared military. EU countries are defenseless sparrows in a world of eagles, according to Tajani. Defenseless sparrows in a world of eagles. Interesting. Let's see, what did the foreign minister say to the Italian newspaper La Stampa? Quote, if we want to be bearers of peace in the world, we need a European army. This is a fundamental precondition for having an effective European foreign policy. He continued, adding that in a world of powerful players like the US, Russia, and China, European citizens can only be protected by something that already exists, and it's called the European Union. Yeah, so I'm not so enthusiastic about an EU army. I think we've been down this road before, and it didn't turn out so well. But there you have it. The Italian foreign minister calling for an EU army so that the European Union can obtain more power, right? They can release their CBDCs, they can build their army, and they can centralize more power under the control of the EU kleptocrats in the form of a military. Yeah, no thank you. No thank you. I think we should all pass on this idea of a European army. As a matter of fact, it would be preferable if NATO was to go away as well. That's how you will get peace. If you get rid of NATO and stop all this nonsense about a European army, then the EU will be able to live in peace. So in Ukraine, we had the former prosecutor of Ukraine, Prosecutor General Yuri Lutsenko. He gave a TV interview the other day, and in this interview, the former Ukraine Prosecutor General, he said that Ukraine loses 30,000 people a month, 500,000 dead and wounded in this conflict. This is what he told this TV station during this interview. And he's saying this, the interesting part about this interview is that he's saying this not in order to push Alinskys towards a capitulation and a peace. He is saying this in order to motivate Ukrainians to mobilize. That is why he brought up this number. In his opinion, the authorities should publish the real numbers of losses of the Ukrainian army in order to show people the seriousness of the situation and thereby motivate them to serve in the armed forces of Ukraine and not avoid mobilization by all means. 30,000 casualties every month. And everyone is wondering, what is Alinskys' strategy going forward? Is the strategy really still about Crimea? Because that's what Alinskys is claiming it to be. It's still about capturing Crimea. Obviously, that did not work out well for the Ukraine military, but 500,000 total casualties. And they want to mobilize another 500,000. It's an interesting number that he threw out there. 500,000 total casualties, and we know that Ukraine wants to mobilize another 500,000 people. The Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, Mr. Johnson, he, Mr. Mike Johnson, he said that in order to approve the $61 billion that Biden is asking for Project Ukraine, He needs to see a plan. He needs to see a Ukraine plan. He said that Americans deserve accountability for the billions of dollars sent to Kiev. This is what Johnson said. Blocking the bill last year was a Republican message to the White House that they were not being clear with the American people, Johnson explained. What is the end game in Ukraine? What is our strategy? What is the objective? How will we have proper oversight over these precious taxpayer dollars? Well, Johnson could start with an audit, start right away with an audit of the 200, 300, 500 billion that has been sent to Ukraine over the past 10 years, not only the past 2 years, but let's say over the past 10 years since the Obama Biden White House overthrew the democratically elected government of Yanukovych in 2013, 2014. They could start there. That would be a good start. Do an audit of all of that money and see where all of that money went. And then Johnson can what can Johnson do? Well, Johnson cannot give the money to Biden. What's the end game? What's the end game in Ukraine? He asks. What is the end game in Ukraine? What is our strategy? Well, the war is lost. I hope to God that the Speaker of the House knows this. If he doesn't know this, then someone should really tell him this. The war is lost. That's a certainty. Okay. So what is the end game? Well, the end game is to keep Ukraine fighting Russia. At least for the 2024 election year. Right? That's what the Biden White House would like to achieve. As Biden goes for re-election, let's just keep Ukraine afloat so that they can fight Russia and we don't get an Afghanistan type of collapse as Biden runs for re-election. That would be the worst case scenario for the Biden White House, right? So, if that's the end game. That's the end game, Mr. Speaker, for the Biden White House. That's what they hope to accomplish with the $60 billion. So if you're the Republican Speaker of the House and you really want to defeat Biden, you really want to defeat the Democrats, I would imagine that one of the best ways to defeat the Democrats is to not approve the $61 billion. I mean, if you're really serious about defeating Biden, you don't approve the $61 billion. That's simple. If it was the other way around and it was Trump that was bogged down in Ukraine, if Trump was bogged down in Ukraine and Trump was asking Congress, asking Nancy Pelosi to approve $60 billion to send to Alinskys, and Nancy knew that a Ukraine collapse would devastate Trump's re-election bid, that Nancy would never approve $60 billion. Never. No chance. So if the Republicans are serious about winning the election in 2024, then they're gonna let Project Ukraine collapse on Biden's watch. It's that simple. In Israel, in the other war that is taking place in Israel and in Gaza, we had the Washington Post come out with an article saying that if Israel were to open up a second front against Hezbollah, it would lose. That is what the Washington Post is reporting. A full-scale conflict between Israel and Lebanon would surpass the bloodshed of the 2006 Israel-Lebanon war on account of Hezbollah's substantially larger arsenal of long-range and precision weaponry, the Washington Post stated, citing officials who also warned that the militant group could launch missile attacks on Israeli petrochemical plants and nuclear reactors. That sounds like a false flag statement, false flag reporting from the Washington Post. The Washington Post also said that they fear that a second front would draw in Iran, and they said that Israel's military is just spread too thin to open up a second front against Hezbollah. Now, this can be seen as two ways, this report from the Washington Post. Now that you have Blinken touring the Middle East, this reporting could be seen as a warning to Netanyahu and to Israel not to open up a second front. You know, like Blinken said the other day, to keep a lid. That's what Blinken said, to keep a lid on this conflict and not have this become a wider war. So this article could be seen as a warning to Israel. Don't open up a second front because you're going to lose. Or it could be seen as an article to pull the U.S. into a conflict, right? Because Israel is spread too thin and is simply too weak. It's just not strong enough to take on a second front against Hezbollah and potentially Iran. Well, the U.S. is going to have to step in if Netanyahu goes ahead and opens up a second front against Hezbollah. So that was the report from the Washington Post. And by the way, Fox News is reporting that because of the assassination of Hamas leader Aruri, Hamas is less willing to negotiate hostage release, and this is according to Qatari officials. So because they assassinated Aruri, who was actually a key negotiator in the hostage release process, because they annihilated this guy, now Hamas is just not willing to negotiate for more hostages to be released. So there you have it. Was it worth it? Was it worth killing Aruri now that you won't be able to get more hostages released because he was a key negotiator? So let's do one more story, a pre-clown world, I guess, before we get to our main clown world. By the way, there's also news that Jeremy Corbyn is set to launch a rival party to the Labour Party, which will split the left in the UK. That's also an interesting development. Very interesting changes are taking place in Germany and the UK. Huh? So that's the news from Jeremy Corbyn. That's something to watch, a new political party. And remember the story about North Korea, where they fired the live fire artillery into this island area, and South Korea had to evacuate people from this area, and they consider this a provocation. Well, Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-young, she's tough, man. She looks tough. She doesn't mess around. Anyway, she said that the Korean People's Army did not fire even a single shell into the relevant waters. It detonated blasting powder, simulating the sound of 130 coastal artillery. There is a saying that a coward was frightened by his own shadow. She basically said that this incident that took place a couple of days ago was a hoax, a fake out. It was a fake out, and that South Korea fell for it. An interesting comment from I would say the second in command in North Korea. Yeah, if something were to happen to Kim Jong-un, I think she would take over, and she's tough, man. she looks a lot more tough than Kim Jong-un, that's for sure. So let's do a clown world to wrap this video up. And Alinskys, he actually booked a performance in Sweden. He actually got his first performance of 2024. He booked it in Sweden at some defense industry or some defense ministry conference that was taking place in Sweden. And he made a video appearance, actually. He didn't travel to Sweden, but he appeared via video link. And he said that Russia, this is an interesting statement. He said that Russia can be brought back within the framework of international law, but of course, Russia has to be defeated by Europe, that Putin has to be defeated by Europe, and so Europe needs to give Zelensky more money and more weapons to defeat Russia. But he did say that that Europe can bring back Russia, can bring Russia back into the framework of international law. It's an interesting statement from Zelensky. It's Zelensky acknowledging that the collective West and that the European Union understands that this conflict is lost and that they need Russia. They need to somehow, some way open up some sort of negotiations or dialogue with Russia. And that is why he's making this statement. Even Russia can be brought back within the framework of international law. Let's defeat Russia. Let's defeat Russia. And we can, after we defeat Russia, Europe, we can bring them back into the framework of international law, according to the little green man. But as he was giving his speech, as Zelensky was speaking via video, there are various videos showing Crown Princess Victoria falling asleep as Zelensky is talking. Now, you'll see the video right now on your screens, and it does look like Princess Victoria is taking a little nap as Zelensky is speaking. But I don't know, maybe she was just resting her eyes for a bit. But you be the judge. Did Princess Victoria fall asleep as Zelensky was speaking, or is this video just kind of from an unfavorable angle, and she wasn't really falling asleep? She was just resting her eyes for a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. I think she was falling asleep, but who knows? Zelensky, he's just not as entertaining as he once used to be when he was playing the piano with his penis. When he was doing that routine, Princess Victoria would have been wide awake if he was doing that routine. But anyway, let's see. Here's a title from Forbes, and we'll end the video. From Forbes, Ukraine has a new air defense vehicle. Listen to this title. Ukraine has a new air defense vehicle, an old M113 APC armed with an equally old ZU-25-2 autocannon. Ukraine has a new air defense vehicle, an old this and an even older that. Oh boy. Remember when they were making fun of Russia, saying that Russia's pulling out tanks from their museums? Yeah, I remember those stories. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and we are on Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. I believe we have a giveaway, a sale, 15% off all T-shirts, I think is what the promo is for this week. All right, take care.